Africa Science Dialogue, closing the gap between science and society.
Hello and welcome to this Africa Science Dialogue for yet another podcast. Today with me is Professor Muso Munyeme from Zambia, and I will introduce him. He is a veterinarian researcher and professor of veterinary public health and wildlife medicine at the University of Zambia, as well as currently acting deputy vice chancellor research and innovation at Palabana University. And he is the One Health coordinator of the World Bank project, the Africa Center for Excellence for Infectious Diseases of Humans and Animals, as well as the current chairperson of the Scientific Steering Committee of Preventing Zoonotic Diseases Emergence Resort. A lot of experience. Professor has a lot of hats that he's wearing. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you.
We will talk about these hats later on in the podcast interview.
You are welcome.
But first, I want you to tell me you're in academia, you're in research,
Yes.
and you are in administration.
In administration, yes.
Which is your finest child of the three?
Actually, two of those. I'm now in administration. For over 20 years plus, I've been mostly both in research and academia. These have been like the driving force, but you reach a certain stage where you find that because of the background which you have created, you are called upon to serve also at another level. To say, no, there is this university, we need innovative minds so that we see if we can run another university. And that's how I have been called upon to act as a Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation, so that we also actualize research, especially in an agriculture university. That's very key, because if you look, Zambia is mostly a mining country, but mining, these are resources which are non-sustainable. Agriculture, if it's well done, it is very sustainable. So the model which we want to run the university should actually reflect what a country should do. Hence our calling to be able to help at that agriculture university. Yeah.
Sometime last year, Professor, there was a drought in some parts of southern Africa, and which led to the culling of wildlife to help in feeding populations.
Yes.
And I know a lot of people that you probably work with in communities tend to interact with wildlife a lot, and of course there is a prevalence of spread of zoonotic diseases.
Yeah.
How are you able to be in contact with these communities to make sure that you're communicating, they're well informed on what to do, what not to do, that you're monitoring such situations, and especially in cases of droughts when people have to take matters into their own hands?
Yes, I like that question. Why do I like that question? You have talked of communities in the wildlife conservancy areas. You see, I'll tell you one thing. Very few people know the most vulnerable communities. I was at a meeting where someone was presenting about vulnerable communities. We've got what we call shanty compounds. Shanty compounds, these are compounds around big cities, like slums. That's the easiest word. People were talking about those as being vulnerable. But the actual vulnerable communities are communities found near what we call protected areas or national parks or game reserves. These communities are very vulnerable. One, governments don't want to put infrastructure like hospitals. If you go to these communities, it's difficult to find the schools, and because they are near these so-called protected areas, these communities are told you are supposed to be in normal communities, not near here, because what you are doing is illegal. You want to be poaching, you are poachers, and they're not allowed to even grow crops. If they grow, you find that wild animals like elephants, they go and destroy their crops. Yeah. So because of that, these communities are very vulnerable. You find no schools, no clinics, no watering. They have to share water with the wild animals. And because of the other issue where they don't have health facilities, I've done a lot of research for over 25 years in these areas. There are diseases, some of these diseases haven't yet even been documented in the many public health clinics because there are no people working in those communities. You'll find these people having diseases which are, one, neglected, what they call neglected tropical diseases. Two, there are diseases which are called the TRDs. These are mostly which are, I can say, or PRDs. PRDs are poverty-related diseases, diseases of poverty. There are also wash diseases because of lack of sanitation. Then there is a question of also a disease which have brought zoonotic. These people, indeed, they're exposed to zoonotic diseases. These are diseases coming from either livestock or from wildlife. But in the absence of health facilities, how are these people helped? They don't get help. It's unfortunate. If you go, there are communities which have been wiped out because of the exposure to certain of diseases. So those communities are important. They are part of our communities in Zambia, and I know even some other countries where there are wildlife. The critical aspect which we need to do is that we need to look at the policies to safeguard these people. It's unfortunate when you go to these communities, you see the level of poverty. You know, nowadays, people, it's very difficult. You know, there is what we call lice. Those small insects or pests which are found on, they can found on humans. People here in town, they don't know that. But you go there, you find these people, they still have lice on their bodies. Yeah? Imagine, in this age and the era, the digital era, then you have got communities exposed to such. There are diseases like leishmania, visceral lover migrants, some kind of worms which can enter in your legs. You find a worm is moving on kids. Blindness caused by certain kinds of flies and some larvae around the eyes of children in these communities are still there, very, very, very much alive in those areas. But you'll be told that, no, we are a community, we have reduced these. People die. I've seen the type of malaria which is found there. I've taken some of my students even from the medical school who have gone with, who are doing what we call One Health, to see the situation there. Some of them, especially the ladies, would even almost cry. They would say, in this country we have got such a situation. And yes, it's there. You need to see there what we call remote rich areas where you see trypanosomiasis, sleeping sickness. It's very much present. People being bitten by rabid jackals, rabid wild animals also biting domestic dogs. Then the domestic dogs go and become rabid, they bite. These are common occurrence. They are happening. And you know, once you are bitten by a rabid dog and the rabies manifests itself, it's a fatal, you are dying.
Yeah.
And these are some of the critical issues which we see down on the ground in these areas. And because of that, we need to be able now to take stock. What is really the situation? What is the status? I like that because you've said these communities, and you have outlined the communities who are found in these areas. These are the most vulnerable communities. Some of the research we've done is on vulnerability assessment, where we've checked, like I've said, human beings need to be exposed to a number of things which they can use. Schools, hospitals, maybe form of employment. There's no form of employment. Then you touch the issue of drought. When a drought comes, you see how these people suffer. And that's when you even see the amount of disease exposure, sharing the remaining watering pools with wild animals. One angle which hasn't been talked when we are doing research during the COVID situation, most of these people, if they've got a problem, they have to move maybe a minimum of 80, 100 kilometers from where they are. And then they find that those hospitals, because of COVID, they were actually closed, or clinics. say, oh, there's COVID. We are maybe treating COVID patients. During that COVID situation, poverty-related diseases, neglected tropical diseases, water or sanitation-related diseases went on a rise in these areas. Whereas in this urban setup, there was a reduction because of certain interventions. The messages were not reaching the people in the real remote areas. And these are scenarios which we need to document. And sometimes it takes people who are down there, who are doing the research, to bring this to the fore. And I really thank you that you have brought that aspect. It's something which we really need to look at critically. Otherwise, we'll be talking of meeting sustainable development goals superficially. But if you take a deep dive, you discover that what is happening down to certain communities which are already marginalized, like I've told you, and they are highly vulnerable. The situation is quite bad. Yeah.
So, Prof, in Africa,
Yes.
as you realize, because of such issues that I've said,
Yes.
the resources that are available, probably, I don't know if they're enough or not, but governments and the things that they prioritize, probably in the short term. And I would believe that a lot of policymakers, politicians will look at the short term because they're looking at re-election, they're looking at possibility of not getting re-elected, so investing in their own, all that.
Yes.
Do you think there's any intervention that can be done by probably like researchers, scientists, to make the government more I think at this point is not even proactive because the problems are already there, but to make sure that such communities that are already that marginalized get some form of empowerment at least? Or do you think we don't have, how is the situation?
Yeah, thank you again for that angle. You see, planning, like most African governments, what I've noticed that their planning is either short to medium term. They don't plan very long-term plans. And with the democracy kind of governance which we have adopted with the cycles, like Zambia, we project plans, 5-year plans, which I think is a very dangerous aspect for us to develop. If you look critically, all the countries which have developed, they had long-term goals. They planned, you look, for example, for China, they plan even 40 years plus. When you reach a planning level where you don't plan for just 3-4 days, but you plan for decades, you should have a vision, and we need to focus. You see, you need to have the intensity of understanding and focusing to say the system we need to develop in order for us to move our people from this level to that level is supposed to be maybe 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now. If you cannot see your people 30 years from where you are just seeing them 5 years. 5 years is a very short period of time.
It is.
A very short period of time. So these plans which we use are really, which, what I can say, really very superficial. They don't have depth. We need plans which can really project actual growth, actual growth in the social aspect, economic aspect, as well as the well-being, the public health aspect of the people. Like you have rightly said, if you are planning, you need to be able to see, one, the outputs of those plans and what will be the outcomes. You know, most of the outcomes in these governments, if you give them 5 years, you find one kind of government comes, maybe another one moves out. If that government did something good, it might be seen maybe 8, 12, 15 years from the time they were there. And it might even be attributed to another person, you see. So these are issues, but that is not a good, it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. Now imagine you sustain planning for 40 years, whichever government comes in, they continue on a positive trajectory. What usually happens is that in Africa, most, especially these who have adopted democracy, someone will come and say, oh, no, what are their plans. Let us start with our own plans. They might not know that to start developing a plan, it might take 1 year. You need adoption. The people, like I've said, in these areas, they need first to start adopting assimilation and also owning those policies. If those people you are trying to help, they are not able to own the policies, you are as good as not doing anything. So that's where you need now to have an approach. Most critical approaches, you need to what we call bottom up or co-creation. Co-creation, it means that together with the people you want to help, you sit down with the community, you engage with them, and let the community lead also, but with your input. That way, the community, even if there are changes, maybe in governance or what, they already know where they want to go. They are going to move in that projection. That's one critical aspect we need to look at. And policies should actually be community-led. Without being community-led, being top-down approach, that usually brings out resentment and possible failure. Because there's no adoption and there's no acceptance. Yeah.
Are there many enough people or groups that are capable of going to the very bottom to talk to the people and that are willing, or are people in their cocoons and not understand? Because like you said, I noted you said that when COVID struck, the people in the urban areas were shielded because, of course, there were so many measures that were put in place.
Information, everything was for them, but they forgot that there is what we call vulnerable communities.
And then you said that people in the urban area don't know about lice. And when you go down there,
we see it.
There are children who are even getting blind because of it. So I'm wondering...
And you also you see these helmets, worms, worm burden, where you see a child... the stomach is almost bulged, and when these children, they are like exposed to a deworming medicine, sometimes you see how the worms come out. Some of them, they vomit these worms. That's how bad it is.
Are there enough groups of people who are willing to go down there, or are people just in their cocoons and not even aware of what's happening out there?
Like you have asked, that question is critical because it's bimodal. It's bimodal. Why? You find that the people in those vulnerable communities, they've accepted the status quo, and they'll say, oh no, for us, this is how we get by, and we don't have representation. Sometimes they'll tell you, we don't know if the government exists. I'll tell you, there are some places here in Zambia during the rain season which get cut. Once they are cut off, you find that sometimes there is no communication with the outside world because they are flooded, the roads are cut, they've got great difficulties even to cross. They just stay in those areas until maybe the rains finish. Then you find that now on the other side of the bimodal is so-called the technocrats who are supposed to go and help those people. Most of the time they don't even reach those real hard to reach communities. You find that they might reach the district levels and instead of going down to most vulnerable, they don't want, because sometimes it's too difficult to reach there, and because it's too difficult, that intervention doesn't reach the intended target. And this is happening because that intervention does not reach the intended target. Those people don't get the kind of intervention. And like I've said, you need, if it's a long-term intervention, you need to put systems, structures in place. The absence of structures and systems in place means that there will be nothing which will be put for functionality to help those people outside there. Yeah. So that's the situation.
Does this look like a winning battle, Professor?
This battle, I can say, is at the level where I'm saying it's still a stagnant battle. It's because we have to be very fair, most of these government agencies, because we are talking of a number of government agencies, it can be environmental, health, the agriculture departments who are supposed to be able to move in, social departments. Most of the time they don't reach those areas. Let us be fair, they don't reach those areas. So until we change the model in which we are operating. We need to change the model. We start being genuine. We take hard questions. We look for solutions. And like I've said, some of the solutions shouldn't be where you send. I've seen what we call, in inverted commas, these non-government organizations. I'm not going to mention them, but they are there, they exist. They will move to these. Some of these non-government organizations, they exist because they are able to go, see the suffering, and document. And on the other side, some of these non-governmental organizations, they are part of the problem, because when they document, they go and show the fora, the suffering of the people, and they receive funding, but they will perpetuate the situation without finding real solutions. And that's where the problem comes in. And this is happening. And this is where we are talking about, because you cannot have, inverted commas, a non-government organization 30 years down the line coming into this area saying we have come to help you. They come, they see you, maybe they leave you with a few handouts, they go back. After 6 months, they come, you are still at the same level. Another year, same level. Are you being helped?
It's a commercial activity.
Exactly.
Is the government like deliberately allowing this? What's happening? Why will that be allowed to continue? Because there is somebody who said in an earlier presentation that one of the costs that we should associate, one of the lost opportunities, is the dignity of the people. Like the people getting indignified, I think that's the word, again and again and again and again, when there could be a solution. So what's happening? Is the government overlooking all these? Are they turning a blind? What's happening?
No, not really. They don't turn a blind eye. You see, in all fairness, a number of governments really do want to help their people, but are there systems in place which can really do the good work? Are there sustainable plans? Are there functional models which can be put in place to make sure that once the government has focused on helping those people, it's genuine and it will be real change which will occur, not where there is no change, something is not genuine, and some people just go there, you see, some people do this, just some allowances, they come back, it's forgotten, reports are not actioned upon. You know, Africa, I've seen where good reports are written about situations, but follow-ups, there is nothing. The monitoring, evaluation, tracking, actioning on those reports is very poor. So you will find that the same activity which was done 5 years ago, it is sanctioned so that people can go and do a status analysis. They go and do the same assessment. The reports will come, they are shelved. Our colleagues in different continents, they actually move in to make sure that by the time they move out of that place, something tangible has really occurred. For us, there is a bit of laissez-faire, and also the lack of, like one of the presenters, like you have said, the respect to a certain level of human dignity to say, let us remove our brothers, sisters in this situation, so that we put them at such a level. Unless we move beyond just the reports and presentations, we are not going to move out of this situation. We need to do it. Should be business unusual, and we need to change all the thinking, because one of the things that it's just to do with one attitude and also the mindsets. The people who go there, when they do something, they really need to do something which is going to change the situation of those vulnerable communities.
Coming to you now personally, in your position in administration, let's just say in academia,
yes,
and probably then we talk about maybe Prisod, Kohesa, what do you feel has been your contribution, and maybe you and the people you work with, towards helping these communities?
Thank you. I'll need to inform you that coming from a One Health background, I'm a veterinarian and the public health veterinarian. There are diseases like the way you had asked, which we call zoonotic diseases, which come from animals and they go to humans. One of the key studies or research which I've done is that I've been able to track these diseases. We even also helping colleagues, postgraduate students, to be able to assess, to model these diseases, to understand their mechanisms. And we've seen that a number of these diseases are found in such places, even to look at their epidemiology cycles of these diseases. So that information, like you have said, I'm a One Health coordinator in the African Center of Excellence. We write policy briefs. These policy briefs, they are taken up. We also collaborate with different government agencies. One critical government agency we collaborate with is the Zambia National Public Health Institute. So the Zambia National Public Health Institute has got also a mandate to be able to get this information, pass it to relevant line ministries for actioning. So as we work, we are producing information. We are also, as an academician, you produce information which we call policy briefs. Then there's scientific information data, which we also produce for publications in scientific publications. This is passed on. Then we come to forums like here, where we now make presentations of our findings. And one key aspect, we also call government, high-level government officials to come and see for themselves, because these are critical meetings. But in all fairness, if you look critically, you find that government officials, big government officials, they rarely come to such meetings. And that's another problem we have. You find you call them, this is what will be done. If they will come, they might spend even just 30 minutes, they are gone. You see, and these are policymakers. These are people who will be called upon to call policy. They miss these opportunities where they should be able to see and have their minds open to say, wait a minute, in our country, such things are happening. You see, that's when they are going now, even when they will have the passion, one, and they will have the drive to be able to push for something, because they have got the knowledge and the understanding that, this from that conference I saw, there was this information which were shared, and we share notes with them. But if they don't come to these critical meetings, I'll tell you, they will think everything is okay when things are not there. You need to be on the ground. They need to hear for themselves. That's when they will be able to move together with what is happening in the country.
This is a call for policymakers to be more involved.
They need to be more involved.
Yeah.
You see, I'll tell you something. I want to mention some countries. We have studied also a bit. We have gone to see our colleagues how they do their. I've seen ministers coming with his like permanent secretaries and the directors to listen to such. In some developed countries, they take notes, and you know what they do? When they come out from there, the minister will need a report and action points. Here, first of all, they don't even come. What would you expect? They don't even come. These are the problems we are facing.
Yeah.
So we won't expect anything.
So, Professor, Africa in general now, living along the Zambia case, there are so many cases of the same sort that you've spoken about in so many places.
Yeah.
But then we know there are the general problems we hear about of disease, and nobody thinks about disease at that level, and illiteracy in some places, and poverty. And now that's compounded by climate change, rapid population change, rapid urbanization, all that.
Yes.
Do you think there is a silver bullet for Africa? What do you think can be done to defeat all these problems?
Yeah. To be honest, I don't really believe in a single silver bullet, because life is multidimensional. the multiplicity of factors like you have laid out are very critical. Life is complex. You are talking of climate change. Climate change comes with its own problems. It comes with its own ripple effects. You have got issues to do with the like you have said, diseases, zoonotic diseases. You have issues to do with the social ramifications of this multiplicity, because climate change, there will be no food. And no food, one, people cannot even, the nutrition levels go down. And you know what happens when nutrition, vulnerability, diseases, immune strength are weakened. So you find that all those factors, they need to be critically looked at. So to say there will be just one silver bullet, it will be, that is why we have a number of government agencies, a number of different ministries, because these, they solve almost a similar situation, but from different angles. So you need to tackle maybe one problem by using different technologies, modes, and also level, and what we call multi-level, multi-strategy approach. So these approaches need to be put together. The brains need, the way we've come from different aspects, to see how we can start moving as Africa. Because if we continue with the same mentality, looking at things in a linear model, we won't see what is on the left, on the right, in the diagonal angles. We need to look at things 360 degrees. You turn around and you see what is coming on the left, on the right, in the north ground, what's there. We need to be well planned, and that's a very critical aspect. So with regards a linear solution, I don't think we are going to have a linear solution. We need to be very, very well vexed with a number of aspects, and we need to collaborate, create platforms where we have all these brains, think tanks, and the social, anthropology, scientific, medical, public health, environmental, coming together to solve these problems. Like you have said, climate change is an environmental problem, but look at its results. They are social. In Zambia, an energy crisis, electricity, because of climate change. And because of that, you know, it affected the socio-economic activities. It affected also other economic activities, which had another form of ramification. So you find that one problem, the ripple effects keep going on. We need to look at that holistically.
Yeah.
So we need to be very holistic instead of linear. Yeah.
Finally, do you feel like Africa is trusting its scientists and experts enough?
If Africa was trusting its scientists, you see, it starts from meetings such as this one. If I ask you a question, if you look critically, there were supposed to be a number of key government officials at policy level. Let's say at policy level. Almost none came. And why? Because it's a scientific gathering. If it was a gathering which maybe it was to do with maybe money and so-called investor coming, they all would have been here. But because it's a scientific meeting, who cares? Because they think science is in abstraction.
So that means that this is a call for policymakers to get themselves more involved. And probably they feel they don't want to get their hands muddied because there's a lot of problems they feel probably they might not manage to address. What will be one message that you send out there? Although I know you had already said they should come out more often and more powerfully.
Yes. Yeah. You know, one thing I've seen is from the policymakers is actually the lack of understanding. If policymakers understood that science can solve problems, one, let me just give you an example. Through scientific activities, people discover medicines. They solve medical problems through scientific activities. You have heard now there are hydrogen cars. Instead of using maybe fossil fuel, someone can actually generate energy which can drive a car, maybe using water. You see, that is science. We are still struggling with the energy crisis. They should look at scientists. Science can solve some of these issues. If you go to countries like China, China has got a lot of technological advancements, even in Japan. All those are anchored in science. The unfortunate thing which they don't understand is that science can reduce the cost of running a country. Let me give you an example. The One Health approach. You know, One Health approach, like in Zambia, we had an issue of anthrax outbreak. You find that the environment is affected. Wild animals are affected. Humans get affected. Livestock get affected. Now you look at the response. The environment, you find that the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment, they dispatch a team on themselves to see what is happening in the environment. The Department of Wildlife, under the Department of Wildlife and National Parks, they dispatch a team to go and look what's the problem. Humans start dying. Ministry of Health dispatches a team. Livestock will start dying. The Ministry of Fisheries and the Livestock, they dispatch a team. Local government, they hear, markets are collapsing because there's an outbreak and all that. Local government dispatch a team. How many government agencies have gone? 5 government agencies. Now, if they coordinate, there is what we call a multi-sectoral coordinating platform. You can only look for experts from each of those, one team, and with a multiplicity of understanding. You know, a combination of brains are better than using one group to go from just one agency. They will just, if it's the environment, they'll just concentrate on the environment. If it's animal, the wildlife, they just concentrate. But if you have got a holistic team, but the good thing is that maybe they're using one vehicle or 2 vehicles instead of using maybe 15 vehicles from all these agencies. One, the government will reduce on the cost of fuel, the amount of money to be paid, and also the amount of information which will be collected by this technical team will be actually good enough to solve the problem. Because one thing which we don't know is that these teams which will go, sometimes they might not be good enough to solve. They might send 2 or 3 or 4 teams from one department to try and solve. They will keep going and maybe come back. They want to consult the health also they send. So you find that instead of going 30, 40 trips, you only go 1 trip, good technical expertise, solve the problem once and for all, put measures. So that cuts the cost so much, but it also builds technical expertise. Even there where you have gone, the local team, they will discover that those people came from this. They will also coordinate and collaborate accordingly. You have seen the way it moves.
Makes sense.
These are some of the things which our policymakers don't understand. And the science has understood, and the science can solve these. Absolutely.
Wow, thank you very much, Professor. Thank you very much. That was Professor Musa Munyeme, who is the acting DVC at, is that right?
Palabana University.
At Palabana University, yes. And who is also very experienced in administration, in research, and in academia. Yes. And as he has said, they can't be working in silos in this whole thing. Yeah. And deep there, the most marginalized of communities need a lot of effort from so many quarters that are currently uninvolved in checking and helping them up. It's about human dignity. It's about the future of our country. It's about the future of Africa. Thank you very much, Professor. We shall continue with these discussions.
You are welcome.
Here on the Africa Science Dialogue as we seek to get all these marginalized communities doing better in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
That was Professor Musa Muso Munyeme, and thank you very much for joining us on the Africa Science Dialogue. I'll see you next time.
Africa Science Dialogue, closing the gap between science and society.